Hey gang, welcome back. Before we begin, I just want to give a huge thank you to everyone and anyone who has watched one of my videos, commented, or subscribed. Your support means so much to me, and it's great to interact with you all. This week we'll be looking at a new commander from the 2015 set. This is Meren of Clan Nel Toth. Now I'm sure you're looking at Meren and thinking, MTG Mazda, you silly goose, you've already covered a green and black reanimator based commander when you did Carador. Yeah, well, but. In this episode, we'll be building Meren a little differently than what I've seen on the net. This time, we'll be building her as a Stax commander. For 2 colorless, 1 black, and 1 green, we get a 3 power, 4 toughness human shaman with 2 triggered abilities. Her first ability, which features experience counters, is a new mechanic introduced to 5 of the new commanders introduced in the 2015 set. For Meren, whenever another creature we control dies, we gain an experience counter. This is pretty straightforward and frankly unsurprising for any commander who cares about the graveyard. Chances are we want things to die so we can recast them, so oftentimes you'll be running a good amount of sacrifice outlets anyway in this kind of deck. Her second ability triggers at the end of your turn and comes with a novel-sized explanation that basically reads, at the beginning of your end step, choose target creature card in your graveyard. If that card's converted mana cost is less than or equal to the number of experience counters you have, return it to the battlefield. Otherwise, put it into your hand. So either way, we either get a creature to the field or a creature to our hand, which is pretty awesome. So now that we know what Meren does, let's see how she fits into the greater picture of our deck. I should probably mention that Meren is by no means the top-end Stax commander. She's probably not even in the top 10, but I feel like because of her synergy and experience ability, it translates well to sacrificing creatures and discarding cards. Her ability to recur these valuable creatures for free at the end of turn should not be overlooked. So before we get into how the deck plays, and what I suggest running, let's cover just exactly what a stack deck is and how it works. A stack deck primarily takes its name from the card Smokestack. Essentially, the main goal of our deck is to deny our opponents resources while we're able to eke out incremental advantage over the course of several turns. The primary ways to accomplish this comes in 3 types of stack effects. There's sacrificing, tapping, and taxing. Essentially, we will be building our deck to capitalize on the difficulty our opponents will be suffering from our various stack type cards. A Stax-based deck can be incredibly skill intensive in terms of piloting, so don't be discouraged if your first few times are a bit of a struggle. Unsurprisingly, since we'll be denying not only our opponents but often ourselves resources, the deck will want to have a low curve. What this means is that cheap mana rocks, dorks, and spells are crucial to the success of our deck. I would prioritize running mana dorks over several of the ramp spells because if we run a card like Winter Orb, fetching a tapped land is going to be pointless. Furthermore, those mana dorks will become card draw or tutoring later on if we run cards like Spell Clamp and Diabolic Intent. An opening hand will typically want about 2 to 3 mana dorks, 2 lands, 1 piece of card draw, and 1 cheap stack card. We want to start punishing our opponents well before they're setting themselves up for their combo or big swings, so locking down certain resources is crucial to us having any chance of winning. Dropping a turn 2 Winter Orb, Thorn of Amethyst, or Tanglewire will go a long way to ensure that we disrupt an early game plan that they might have. 2 great cards to have or draw into at this point are either Sakura Tribe Elder or Spore Frog. These 2 creatures have built-in sacrifice abilities that can ramp and protect us, and still give Meren an experience counter. Their value goes through the roof if we have a Grim Harrispec on the field, as they can often ramp or protect us twice a turn and draw you 2 cards before your next untap. This is where piloting a Stax deck becomes more difficult. By now, people hate you. You'll have pretty much disrupted any chance they had with an opening hand, and made them sacrifice any of their value creatures or messed up their land base. Since it'll be pretty much 3-on-1 at this point, you'll be really thankful for having put down an early Phyrexian Arena, Sylvan Library, or Grim Harrispec. If you haven't, tutors will also help you smooth out any hiccups in the game by allowing you to find any crucial board wipes or removal spells. You're also going to have to get used to pulling some pretty rude moves. Does your opponent only have 1 source of green? Guess what's getting nailed by Strip Mine? Yeah. Doing this the first few times will probably hit you pretty hard in the fields, but after you swallow down those delicious salty tears of our opponents, you'll quickly learn to appreciate the taste. So by now it should be pretty clear whether or not you'll be winning the game. Stacks can lead to some pretty polarized games, whether you're either locking everything down, or your opponents have curb stomped you into oblivion. If you're losing, some people might say it's the ideal time to play a game resetting card like Death Cloud, but frankly, I hate drawing out a losing game. For me, it's often better to just accept my fate and go on to the next one. If you're winning, however, sometimes it can be a bit slow, so to remedy this, Stax decks are one of the few cases where I'd consider running a 2-card combo to help me win. For this deck, I'd recommend Mikaeus the Unhallowed and the Triskelion combo. The way this combo works is you use one of the counters to ping a player in the face, then use the 2 remaining counters to kill the Triskelion, who then comes back with Mikaeus with all those extra counters on him to do it again and again and again and again. Now let's look at some cards I'd recommend. Spike Feeder is another one of those cards that can give you a valuable resource like Sakura Tribe Elder or Spore Frog, but in this case that resource is life. It also has the added benefit of killing itself, which will give Meren an experience counter. You should also keep in mind that between this, Mikaeus, and a sack outlet, you can gain infinite life. Liliana Heretical Healer synergizes well with the main strategy of most Meren decks. She can offer us some serious hand hate to our opponents, reanimate a valuable creature, and her ultimate is just gravy for any deck that has a lot of creatures going to the graveyard. She also flips back to a creature when she dies, which we can bring back with Meren. This is surprisingly relevant when compared to her Of the Veil edition. Awakening Zone and From Beyond are incredible enchantments for a Meren deck. They give us valuable bodies that can be sacrificed as needed for either experience counters or mana, or both. They can also give us fodder for cards like Contamination that require us to sacrifice a creature on our upkeep. Oppression is one of those stack cards that I just love to resolve on turn 2. Suddenly that turn 2 ramp spell doesn't seem so good for our opponents. They even have to really think about when to use Mana Crypt. It's great for us because Meren cares very little about discarding a card, since at the end of turn we get to return a creature to our hand. This can generate some seriously one-sided advantage if you're able to pitch a card that can be brought back by Meren at the end of turn either to the field or to our hand. Fleshbag Marauder and Merciless Executioner are the bread and butter to any Meren deck. Oftentimes you'll be casting this to kill up to 3 other creatures and gaining an experience counter. This becomes even more insane when you're able to bring them back at the end of turn. Run both, trust me. Lastly, a card I'd strongly recommend considering is Titania, Protector of Argoth. Although the deck isn't dedicated to sacrificing lands, oftentimes you might be tempted to let a land or 2 go to the graveyard if Smokestack's on the field. So I say, why shouldn't you get some benefit when you have to do that? If you run Titania, not only can you return those lands easily, but you'll gain a nice 5/3 elemental for each land you have to lose afterwards. You can also consider running Sylvan Safekeeper, since Meren will often be a primary target for removal. He'll protect our valuable creatures and can set up a lethal thing with Titania for late game. Meren Stax is a great deck if you're looking for a Stax deck that will not completely lock people out of the game, but at the same time provide you with an interesting graveyard mechanic and recursion engine. She's a lot of fun, has a lot of space to be built around. I would strongly recommend her if you're looking for a Stax deck. Well gang, that's my take on Meren of Clan Nel Toth. I hope you enjoyed it. As always, thank you for watching and be sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe. See you next time.